So let's get into the articles. The Convoy 19 forces more children onto the streets. In Hanoi, a leading charity in Hanoi says there's been a threefold increase in the number of children living on the streets, forced from their homes in search of work during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Blue Dragon Children's Foundation has helped thousands of disadvantaged youngsters get their lives back on track. But in March alone, they have identified 30 new juveniles sleeping rough in the capital. Normally, we would meet about 10 new street kids every month in Hanoi. In March, we met about 30, Sky Marketing co-CEO said. Kids are not in school, their families are not earning income, and they might come from a home where there's already abuse in the home or some other difficulties. It is true. Vietnam actually, they've been out of work in many cases since January when Tet started. And so the lift just happened, so now they can start making money again. But the government has done a few promotions to help these families out. So they are coming to the streets for Hanoi to try to earn money or get away from something. Although less than 5% of COVID patients in Vietnam are under 18, that she said that the global pandemic is putting more children at risk. The dedicated staff at the charity were given special dispensation and allowed to continue to patrol the streets during the social distancing, handing out food, masks, advice, and support to youngsters. She said, though the strict social distancing period, our team still needs to respond to the calls for help. So we did that in the safest way possible. We had to out team. We had a reach out team on the streets every night here in Hanoi because more and more children were out on the streets and they needed support with food, they needed face masks, and they needed to understand the situation, and we would try to help and get them back to the countryside where possible. According to the official statistics, the pandemic has affected nearly 5 million workers in April in Vietnam. That means an even more severe blow is going to come. Yeah, I believe it. Now, she also said during the pandemic that people were normally support groups are in deeper crisis. Yeah, no money, no food. They have no woman, infant, children. They have no food stamps. Vietnam almost has no welfare. They had a few small rice ATM machines and such. We that were usually donated by the general public. We are seeing families who are becoming homeless again, ending back up on the streets or working the streets because they don't have enough money to pay rent or food. Rent even for an apartment is only like 200, 1 to 200 a month, and that's hard for some to get though. We have seen a lot of our young people who would have helped get into jobs now be laid off because of the situation, and many of their families work day to day to survive. Okay. Adding to this, social distancing and international travel restrictions, which have helped contain the spread of the virus, made it even harder to get around. Vietnam really had no major lockdown besides the schools, but they did say you stay within your city. So usually, like in Vietnam, the countryside kids will go to the bigger cities to, I don't know, shoe shine, do travel, tourism work, but it's gone. So they had no work and they couldn't leave their city on top of that. We have victims of human trafficking calling for help, and we have been unable to rescue them, which is very, very challenging. Those women in slavery are at the harm. Well, I don't know. When we talk about human trafficking, I think of the Lorry people. Those people pay thousands of dollars to get into England and they died on the way. But hey, you paid like a drug dealer to do something for you illegally. So yes, I feel sorry for some human trafficking, but when people give money to be human trafficked, I don't feel sorry for them. In March, we had 30 calls for help, so only women we were able to support over the phone. And we have now been able to start rescuing slowly. But currently, we have 25 victims waiting for rescue. So those numbers really have spiked. Although Vietnam is doing a great job in containing the deadly pandemic, the charity head was still very cautious in what the future holds for the case of the pandemic worsens. A second wave of infections will be deliberating a lot of the families that want to work, she said. It takes time for them to recover from what they have just happened, and the risk is still going to be there. Despite these challenges, the Hanoi based NGO, non group organization, which has had 17 years working to help the street children and the human trafficking victims, known as a vital role to play. You know, another big human trafficking, and a lot of mothers do this too. It shames me. Um, they send their sons to either China or on fishing boats, and then they're gone forever because once you're on sea, they'll mistreat you hardcore on those fishing boats. Crises is what we do, and we're definitely not going to give up. Our focus is to get to the victims of trafficking as soon as possible and get them home. Our other focus is to get the kids that have left home to work because of the school closures. Yeah, the schools finally reopened in some places this week, in most Vietnam next week. So that's good. The kids will have something to do. Okay, and the reason I did this article first is because, as you may know, I raised money for a Laos school last month in April, and we got 17 new subscribers. So I donated 25 Canadian dollars, or around 17, 18 US dollars, to that school being built. So now this month I have found this organization, so I'm gonna hold the same ordeal. If you subscribe to the channel, for every subscriber, I'm giving 20,000 Vietnam Dong, which is about $1 US. And let's see how much money we can get by the end of May. And what about yourself? I have my question for you is what would have you ever been homeless and on the streets or have you ever thought about running away? Did it really solve anything or make problems worse? And what do you do in hard times if you're an adult? What do you do in hard times to make money? That's what I really want to know. Try to promote your ideas below to help people that are looking for ways to generate money.